Morning. I'm actually braving the garage today. It's getting close to 45 degrees and it's sunny out, as you can see. So I'm going to take advantage of this weather and take you through the process of installing a dropper post on the Poseidon Redwood. This is my partner Diana's bike, size extra small. Let's take a look at what we're working with today. First we have the PNW Pine dropper post. This is the same post that's on my Redwood. It's a 90mm drop, 27.2 diameter, externally routed seat post. We'll be operating that post with the Shimano Pro drop lever remote. We'll need a Seatpost Shim to make this 27.2 post fit into the 31.6 seat tube. Specialized body geometry bar Phat Tape, which has some extra gel pads under the tape for taking the sting out of gravel and that sort of thing. A nice addition. As far as tools, we have a torque wrench, cable cutters, some hex bits, a level to level out the seat, some tape for the bar tape, grease and carbon compound assembly. Compound, which I won't need because this seat post is going to be sitting right on the seat post collar, but if you install a seat post and use a shim, this is a good thing to have because it will greatly reduce the chance of that slipping. And then some power built T-handle hex key wrenches, which are one of my favorite hex keys, just awesome. I've had them for a long time and they work great, super durable. So here's what we're looking at right now as far as the Poseidon. We're going to be taking this stock seat post out, installing the new dropper. We'll take the bar tape off. You can see on the Redwood that there are brackets already for that external cable routing. Come around here and you'll see that there's a port in the frame to bring that dropper cable up onto the bars. And you can see I've already cut myself, and I did that this morning just walking around. Okay, basically we're going to just remove the old tape. And again, the reason I'm changing this is because I'm going to put new bar tape on that has some extra gel padding on the top and just above the hoods, and it just kind of takes the sting out. I've used that bar Phat Tape on my road bikes forever, and I kind of got spoiled by it. With the remote that we're going to use, you kind of have to take the bar tape off anyway, at least partially, to install the remote, as you'll see. So even if you didn't really want to change the bar tape, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because the remote goes below the hoods, and the way the bar tape, all bar tape is installed, is you'd have to come this far. Actually, you'd have to take it all the way off to install the remote. So no matter what, plan on getting some new bar tape, even if you don't want to do the extra gel inserts. One nice thing is you can pick different colors if you want. Fancy your bar tape up a little bit. Just could be kind of a fun way to personalize the bike. So just a little bit closer look at this the Shimano Pro lever. The cool thing about it is you can, once it's installed, you can operate the remote from up on the hoods or from down on the drops, which is very cool actually. And I have this installed on mine, and I've already benefited from that that flexibility. So pretty cool design. There's other ones out there that are like that. This just happens to be the one that I could find in stock anywhere. So pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get that installed. Okay, I've got that installed. I just got it basically hand tight for now, because I'm going to fine tune the position in a little bit, but you can see what I mean about you can operate it from the drops or operate it from the drops or from the hoods. Very cool design. So some of you might be curious about the weight penalty involved in installing a dropper post. So just for information's sake, the stock post on the Poseidon Redwood weighs 385 grams, and we'll go ahead and weigh the dropper post in a second here. Alright, let's go ahead and throw the dropper post on here. Looks like it's exactly 500 grams. So we're talking about roughly 120 gram penalty for the post. Then you have the remote and the cable, but I mean, if that's another 30-40 grams. Basically you're looking at roughly a 150 gram penalty, maybe 160, 170 gram penalty for a dropper post. That's well worth it in my book. Okay, so we're gonna get our Seatpost Shim ready. Gonna put a little grease on the outside of this. So that it's kind of acting like the seat post itself. So you want to have a layer of grease between this and the frame, just to keep things from creaking and or seizing up. Once you got that done, that just slides right in. Easy as that. Here's our pine dropper post, 90 millimeter drop. Again, I am not going to put any carbon assembly paste on here, and the goal of carbon assembly paste twofold. One is to protect your carbon components by reducing the amount of torque that's necessary to keep them from sliding. And secondly, even for aluminum and steel components, it has a little bit of a grit in it, and that helps keep those from sliding as well. But because this is actually going to sit down all the way on to the seat post collar, because that's the height that I need, I won't need it. It isn't going anywhere because it can't drop any further because it's butted right up against the seat post collar. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, to see what you would need, this is Tax brand. I've had this forever. You buy it once, it's a lifetime supply of carbon assembly grease. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the Redwood comes with cable guides and brackets for an externally routed post, which is awesome. So I'm going to be utilizing them. I'm going to feed the cable, you may not be able to see this very well, through the port in the down tube here. I can see it already. Yep. It was stuck on the chain ring. Alright. And so I'm just going to leave however amount of cable for now. We're going to fine tune that in a bit. So, down here. Here's my cable. It's come through basically through the down tube. There's a large opening here which you can't see. And then I'm going to feed it up through these brackets. Don't even have to pop the brackets off, just feeds right up. Just super fun and clean. Easy peasy. Alright, and there we go. I'll say one thing about externally routed posts. They are easier to install than most internally routed posts. Okay, on the Pine, we're just going to pop this little cover off. Comes from underneath. Be super careful on this part, you don't want to break that. Okay, I've got that housing cover off. I'm going to go ahead and feed the inner cable through the outer cable. Keep looking for that cable to come through the other end. There it is. Alright, so we're just basically, I'm just going to kind of feed everything down a little bit so that I can get the housing set in there. And then we'll just feed that barrel in there. And that's it. And then the cover snaps back on. This is a little bit tricky. It has to feed over the cable. That has to sit in there perfectly while this snaps on from the top to the bottom. There we go. Alright, and there's not going to be any tension on that yet since we don't have the cable installed. Alright, got the seat back on. It's not tightened yet because I'm going to level it in a little bit, but got that taken care of. Make sure you grease the seat post rails. If you don't know, that's a good way to prevent creaking down the road. We've got our cable, inner and outer cable run inserted, and then here's the other business end of that cable. So we're going to go ahead and get that length figured out and then get it installed into the remote dropper. Okay, the next step is to figure out how long you're going to want this cable to be. So I'm using this existing shifter cable housing curve to kind of estimate. I want it to be about the same as that. So I know that I'm basically going to need it to come to about here for total length. Okay, another little detail is that Shimano includes an inline barrel adjuster that allows you to adjust the tension on the remote cable. So once I have the overall length figured out and cut, then I'm going to make a second cut where I can have the barrel adjuster. So basically, and you need access to it, it can't be under the bar tape, so right about here. So basically I'm going to cut the cable again about here, and then we'll go ahead and put the barrel adjuster in there. So I'm going to double check overall again, and probably right about here. Cut that again, and again we'll clean out those ends so that the inner cable doesn't get hung up. I'm going to go ahead and feed the inner cable through first. Get that inner cable set there for a sec. Reinstall for probably the 4th time. At least. Alright. Go ahead and feed the inner cable through the barrel adjuster and on through. Alright, so we got that done. Now we're making progress. Okay, now that we have our cable pretty well set up, I'm going to go ahead and feed it through the remote. Just kind of gently get that fed through. Don't want to go too crazy on that because you don't want to unbraid that cable. Get that seated into the remote. Like so. Get a little closer look. So I've got the cable barrel adjuster here with the cable coming into the remote. Hopefully you can kind of see that. And then fed through the back of the remote. And it kind of get weird with the camera here. And then we're going to tighten that down. That pinch bolt, we'll tighten that down in a little bit. But first I'm going to tape the outer cable to the handlebar and get that all set so that we've got everything pretty well where we want it before we start to try to tension that cable. Okay, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to basically tape this cable underneath the existing one. That gives the straightest line into the remote, and I don't know, just the most direct route possible to avoid any sharp bends is definitely going to make it easier to adjust the remote action. One tip for the inline barrel adjuster is you want to basically, once you have the cable installed, back it out about 2 or 3 turns so it's kind of in the middle position. That way you have cable adjustment both directions. And you want to do that before you cinch down the cable here, the inner cable, so that you have that range of adjustment available here. If you don't do that and then you cinch this down here, you're only going to have one way of adjusting it, basically making it tighter. And the thing with these remotes is you need to be able to fine-tune that cable tension to get for proper operation of the seat post. So anyway, just a little tip there. Okay, this is another one of those tricky things. I'm pushing down on the lever to make sure that it's fully retracted, while also tensioning the cable and tightening the bolt all at the same time. This bolt has a 2 Newton-meter torque rating. I'm just going to barely tighten it, and then I'm going to get my torque wrench out and tighten that down to 2 Newton-meters. And you want to use a torque wrench on that because it's a very small bolt, and you definitely don't want to break that off. So I'm going to go ahead and finish tightening that to spec, which is also a little bit of an acrobatic act. 2 Newton meters is not very much. Okay, so we've got our cable cinched, and immediately upon actuating the lever, chances are that it's basically going to go slack. And that happens virtually every time, because that's how you figure out how to actually tighten the cable, is by actuating it a few times and stretching that cable out. No different than any shifter cable situation where basically the cable might be caught somewhere or kinked. So I'm just going to work this lever about 10-11 times, and then I'm going to loosen that pinch bolt, and then I'm going to retighten it. All right, I'm going to retighten that. I've kind of pulled it taut again. My torque wrench. And do those contortions required to. Alright. Alright. Let's see if it works. Okay, a moment of truth. We have a dropper post. Again, doing this a few times will help tension that, work the kinks out of the cable and make sure that the tension is right. And so sometimes you'll go through this and you'll find that it stops working generally because that means the cable has stretched and the remote is no longer actuating the seat post. But so far so good on this one. Another thing that you can find with dropper posts is that they'll actually sink under your weight as you ride, and again, that's a sign that the actuator is not fully returning and it's allowing the post release mechanism to stay open. So these are just a little foibles and little tricks and sort of trial and error that are required with dropper posts. One of the reasons why I really like the PNW and the Shimano combination is because it's so easy to install and it's easy to adjust, and then once it's in, it's easy to operate. So I'm super pleased with that. That's really all there is to it as far as the installation. So the next step for me will be to rewrap the bars and take it for a test ride, or have Diana take it for a test ride. I also have to level out the saddle and tighten the saddle bolts. And then I have to tighten the seat post collar, and again, you don't want to go over more than 4 or 5 Newton meters on that seat post collar, otherwise that can interfere with the post return speed. To cut this excess cable and put the little pinch cap on it, but basically these are all the little last minute things that will get this job complete. Okay, so to finish off this job, I brought the bike back inside. Even though the sun's out, it just got too cold out there. And doing wrapping a bar takes time and concentration to get it done right the first time, and I want to be warm doing that. So I'm just going to show you a couple more things. This is what the bar fat insert, gel insert that goes under the tape looks like, nice and squishy. I think there's 2 thicknesses. Not sure which one this one is. I think maybe 3.5 millimeter. So basically you just lay that out, just kind of rest it on the bar and center it a little bit. And as you tape over it with bar tape, it actually stays in place really well. And then the other piece, which is a straight piece, I don't know how well you can see that, I'm going to put underneath down here, and the goal there is to have padding when your hands are in the drops like that. Get rid of that old tape. So I'm going to just place that on each side of the bar, and then I'll complete the wrapping process. So I'm not going to show you how to wrap the bar tape. Again, I recommend, if you're looking for a tutorial on that, Park Tool has a really good one online that teaches you how to wrap the tape and some tricks of the trade on how to do it so that it stays in place. And then once the bar tape is on and installed, we'll take it for a test ride. Does it work? Oh, look at you. How low can you go? How does the bar tape feel?
It feels amazing. I think it's probably worth a whole nother gear to me when I'm climbing, because I'll be like gripping. I'm like, oh. No, it's very comfortable. The seat operates up and down smooth as silk. Feels good.
All right. Thanks again for coming along for this install with me. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you look for another video on the channel, the bike check that I did on my bike, you'll see in that description, I've linked all of the parts. The dropper post, the remote, the bar tape, the Seatpost insert. So if you're looking for any of those parts, check out that video and you'll be able to find links to all those products. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.